Hello, and welcome back to Jamal MMA series. Today we are joined by the current reigning and defending, coming soon, Cage Wars Flyweight Champion of the World, Sam Uri Creasey. Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm very well, thank you.
So just recently we found out that you're going to be fighting November 20th in the BT Sports Studios, a rematch 6 years in the making against Shahidul Haq. What is it like getting this rematch back for you?
Good opportunity to kind of right some wrongs. Test how my improvements have gone over the years, and face one of the best flyweights in Europe at the same time.
Definitely, man. And people forget that you guys even fought for the first time because it was that long ago. But yeah, I rewatched that. You had an interview
Yeah.
after your fight against Paul Marin after Cage Warriors 86, and you said that you'd be interested in rematching Shad. So that's obviously came back full circle there. You've been looking for this fight for a very long time. The next thing I wanted to get into was recap your win in Wales against Stipe Bursic. A very good performance, a quick win, got the guillotine. What was it like coming back after a bit of time off, after a couple of cancelled fights, and then getting the win in Wales? Is the connection going?
Hi, mate. I think
All
my
right.
Wi-Fi just went down.
Yeah, I think it did for a second though. Are you good? You came in now, yeah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right, yeah. So just saying, if you want to recap the one against us, Stipe Bursic in Wales.
That's a very short recap. It went as perfectly as I ever imagined a fight could go, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of the perfect finish to a very difficult kind of build up with the fight with Dylan Hazan falling through 3 weeks or so before that. Then at the time being super ready to fight and wanting to do anything to get a fight, to realizing how much pressure I put on myself about half
Mm-hmm.
an hour before the fight. Thinking, what have you
Mm-hmm.
done? Um, and so, yeah, it went as well as I could possibly have imagined, you know.
Mm-hmm. So something we were talking about recently was the fight between Dominique Wooden and Michelle Martignoni. You mentioned that you'd be interested in facing Michelle. Do you think that would be to unify the belts, or would it be Michelle coming back down to flyweight?
Um, I mean, it makes sense for me to unify the belts,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but we shall see. I know there are a bunch of challenges out there at bantamweight for him, um, but I think he can make flyweight as well, and that's a fun fight. I think he brings it. I mean, he looked down and out in the first round against Dominic, and came back, and that crowd really ruled him on. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's a fight I'd be very interested in.
Something else I want to ask you about. Right now, you are the king of the flyweight. So I was wondering, what do you think the current state of the flyweight division is? Obviously, one of the bigger fights that we've got announced right now is yourself versus Shaj, and also Aaron Abbey versus Stipe Bursic in Manchester. What do you make of the current state of the flyweight division in Cage Warriors?
Um, it's very competitive. There's a lot of guys who've appeared out of nowhere, sort of thing. Some really good prospects coming through. I like the look. Brad's guy, what's his name? Lonnie. Lonna. He
Lorna
looks
Kavanagh, yeah, yeah.
real. Yeah, looks really sharp on his feet and that. I know he's been training a long time. Mr. Lupoli, he beat Aaron in his last fight. He did very well to
Mm-hmm.
do so, and just before that, Aaron had gone on a win streak and put away two guys he was probably expected to lose against on paper. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a very competitive division at the minute.
Circling back to the fight with Hack, one of your training partners is Jake Hadley, who has got a win over Shad Shai by knockout. Does it give you a bit of confidence knowing that you've got a guy who's worked an entire camp for him as well?
Uh, yes and no, really. Like, I mean, we fight in a completely different way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when Shaj fought Jake, I don't think he'd fought in quite a while anyway. So perhaps there is the rustiness that comes with the sport as well. But since then, I mean, I haven't watched any of his recent fights, but I know that he's done amazing in all of them. He's absolutely put on some wonderful performances, and I'm looking forward to seeing if I can match that.
So talking about rematches here, one thing I want to talk about was one of the more memorable parts of your career recently has been that saga with Luke Shanks. Do you think we'll ever get a trilogy between you guys, or do you think Luke's kind of moved on after the weight misses and stuff and moved up to bantamweight?
It's hard. It's hard to say really, because he's gone up to bantamweight, which after he missed weight twice, which was the thing to do. But then he's looked really good at bantamweight. He's got the lad from Calbon. That's a really good fight, and from the sounds of things, I think he's done with Cage Warriors at the minute. So I think that's out of the pipeline for like the immediate future. But it's something I'd like to get back one day. I mean, we're both one apiece there. Winner takes all sort of thing, right?
So the next thing was there's been a lot of famous brother duels throughout the history of MMA. The Diaz brothers, the Nogueira brothers. Some people might not even know that you have a brother, Tom Creasey, who does compete in MMA. Been very successful recently. What is it like having a brother who competes in the same sport as you and is doing as well as you?
Oh, nobody knows about my brother. Right? If you go to any of the gyms where he sparred, oh my goodness, that he should already be in the UFC right now. He's easily the best UK flyweight. I'm not joking at all. He does a number on me anytime he wants, and he is the best training partner I could ask for. He is fantastic, and he should be exactly where I am right now.
I don't think it'll be too long until we see him get there. Next one I wanted to touch on was it seems like there's a bit of a dying breed of true mixed martial artists, and you seem to be one of the last of this dying breed to keep true to yourself. And you're just very well spoken, very well mannered. Do you feel like what I'm saying is true, that there is a dying breed of people who really do take the sport to heart and are as dedicated as you are?
Yes and no. I think I'm a bit longer in the tooth. I did start martial arts late, and I found it as like, this is really my calling in life. A lot of the guys who are on the way up now, they're very young. They're very young in the sport and that, and they see it displayed in a different way. I'm really not interested in a lot of the stuff that comes with the like the hype in a fight and that, and some talking some shit. And I understand that it's there for the cameras and to sell the fights and that, but for me, it's never really like part of your true character. It's just a show, you know. Yeah.
Next thing I want to move on to was I'm assuming that you like being out in nature, because you cannot go on the Sam Creasey Instagram without seeing you outside. You said there was a pond, I think, that you live nearby that you try to clear out and stuff like that. How much do you enjoy spending time in the great outdoors?
Oh man, I love it. I've come from 2 training sessions today, and my hands are covered in tree sap as well, where I've been lopping down a tree. I'm either in the gym or I'm probably outside somewhere doing something with nature. You know.
That's a great one. So one thing I like asking fighters about is other walkout songs, and for as long as I can remember in Cage Wars, you've walked out to Fernando Lopez, Walk of Life. What does that song mean to you, and why has that been the main choice for your walkout songs?
Do you know that it's a funny one? I just remember it from my childhood, and that I'll be in the car on the way to my grandparents, and my father would always put that on and sing along to it, like at the top of his voice. He was a singer and was in a band and that when he was a youngster, and he's got a good voice. I think that it gives me a good feeling when I'm walking out to that. I always feel good when that comes on anywhere, you know.
So one of the biggest flyweight fights in MMA recently has been announced, the quadrilogy between Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. What do you feel like is going to go down when those guys meet for the 4th time, the first ever quadrilogy in UFC history? Have you got a prediction for that fight?
Uh, I think if Figueiredo plays the right fight, gets his weight cut on point, and that he's too big and too strong. I think, and it should be his fight. But if he gets it wrong, I mean, it's easy to do. He looks like half of the version of himself we've become to see in the past. But that being said, those two are still not the best flyweights on the planet. Mighty Mouse is out there, and Cejudo, if he ever came back, he's the number one, right? Which is what I think the flyweight division in the UFC. Anybody top 20 could win on their day against anybody else, to be quite honest.
So we mentioned him earlier, Jake Hadley. He's got a fight coming up next month against Carlos Candelario. Are you looking forward to this fight? And do you feel like after him losing his own against a very underrated fighter in Alan Nascimento in his UFC debut, do you feel like you might see a bit of a rejuvenated and maybe a bit of weight off his shoulders, knowing he's not off the Canada undefeated record anymore? How do you think we're going to see Jake Hadley perform in that fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't see the real Jake in his last fight anyway. And I tell you, I thought Jake was a big flyweight. Alan Nascimento, my God, that bloke was enormous. I've never seen a flyweight that big. But yeah, I'm expecting to see the real Jake back in there, and I expect him to get a nice clean finish at some point. He's been practicing on me on a couple of Wednesdays so far, so I don't want to take one of those shots.
I mean, yeah, Nascimento was one of the main training partners of Charles Oliveira, so you got to be a bit of a bigger guy there. And to be fair, he is a massive flyweight now you think about it, because Jake was a big guy as well when you consider it. But yeah, the last thing I want to touch on was, I don't think it'll be too long before we see both of the Creasey brothers in the UFC. What do you feel like the first step of your UFC career would be? Are there any names like just inside the rankings, or maybe the guys just about outside the 16, 17s? Any names?
Anybody. Give me number one. Anybody in there. Yeah, anybody in there. I don't want to I don't need to work my way into that. You give me anybody in the UFC, I'll fight them right now.
It's interesting because sometimes they kind of take with guys who are champions in other promotions, they put them straight to the top, like Yuri Prohaska, or some other guys to put right outside, like Ian Gary, and they kind of have to work their way up. So it'll be very interesting to see how you shape up and where the matchmakers kind of put you. But yeah, this was a very good talk, man. I love having you on. Hopefully, I can get you back on maybe before or just after the UFC debut comes in due time. But yeah, Sam, everyone go check out his Instagram and everything if you want some nature and some inside the look of the life of Sam Creasey. But yeah, man, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you later.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man.